What is going on with Bitcoin this October? It's been kind of a rough start and not what people expected. This is crypto simulation theory. I'm the Gaussian snake, and this is not financial advice. So I want to take a look at some market watch data just to get an idea of kind of what has affected the market, at least this week potentially. Initial jobless claims came in at around 258,000, which is higher than what was projected. The CPI and core CPI are also a little bit higher than what we would like to see. So this has not been great for the stock market and in turn for the crypto market as well. But if you kind of like zoom out on the stock market, you can see that we still have a very healthy bullish structure on the quarterly. This is quarterly Heikin Ashi candles. We still have a nice big green candle in quarter four. It doesn't look as nice necessarily as the other ones, but it is still looking good enough to, what you again, that's the indecisive candles that you have to watch out for. Trend still looks good. This is above its uh, this would be its 60-month whole moving average, and then it's nicely also above its 150-month whole moving average and bull market support band Gunner EMA. It still looks really good. So I'm not concerned about the stock market doing anything crazy. Of course, we never know for sure, but that's something to just keep in mind as we transition to looking at Bitcoin. Bitcoin's quarterly Heikin Ashi candle doesn't look nearly as good as the stock market's does. In fact, we had an indecisive quarter three Heikin Ashi, and the quarter four at least is opening up with no undershadows. That's a good thing. And I also want to point out that our 60-month whole moving average did have a golden cross in quarter two with the 150-month whole moving average. And these are very strong moving averages. So, in fact, the 150-month has only been around since mid 2023. So, that's something to keep in mind. Gunner bull market support band still active. Um, of course, that doesn't really mean a whole lot because Bitcoin has pretty much been in a bull market like on a macro scale for over a decade. So we won't even pay attention to that. But let's kind of zoom in a little more granular so we can take a look at what's going on with Bitcoin on more of like a weekly level. So I've pulled up a moving average ribbon of whole moving averages. These are not simple moving averages, they're whole moving averages. And I want to show you kind of where Bitcoin is at right now. This is on the weekly time frame, which is one of the most useful time frames for analyzing Bitcoin. We have our 10-week. This is one you have not seen me talk about before. We have a 10-week whole moving average, which is in light purple. We have a 40-week whole moving average, which is in green. So these are two new whole moving averages that I'm using. I don't really want to clutter charts up, so I don't always show these ones, but I want to show them today. So Bitcoin has been struggling to break above the 50-week whole moving average ever since this death cross happened of the 100-week, which is in white. This is the 50 in blue, back in August. And this is the 200-week where Bitcoin has been holding support on every dump that it's had. And so it looks like Bitcoin might be in for another dump. I mean, we've had two pretty ugly weeks in October and a very swift rejection off the 50-week. We're bunched up right now at the 20, which is in yellow, the 40, which is in green, and again the 10, which is in purple. But we still have the 200-week below. And so I personally anticipate that we will very likely, barring some black swan event, find some nice support around the 200-week if we have to go there again for a third time. So, that is certainly a possibility. It's something to prepare for. Bitcoin is underneath 60K as I'm making this video. And it would not be surprising at all to see it go to the 200-week whole moving average. However, I would anticipate there's a strong likelihood of a bounce around there. If we were to get below the 200-week whole moving average, then we have to look at some other price areas that Bitcoin could reach. So I did talk about the idea of a dump before a pump back in September, and I abandoned my theory of Bitcoin getting down this low, but that could have been a mistake. I don't know. I'm not going to move the goalposts. I already moved them once by rejecting my own theory. But I think I said originally between 42,000 and 49,000 or 51,000. I think that was my previous red zone. Um, So that's another possibility if things get really ugly, but that again is not really my base case, and I'll kind of explain why as I continue through this video. So just letting you know that was my base case back in like for a while actually, August, September. But I changed my mind in late September when I saw some things changing in the market. So this is the bottom of a linear regression channel that I talked about in my last Bitcoin video, and I did mention it's entirely possible that we make it all the way down to the bottom of this channel, which is around 57, 58K. This channel has a pretty strong trend dating all the way back to November of 2022. We have remained in this linear regression channel, and it seems like a reasonable place to expect a bounce would be around here, like around this 50, about $2,000 lower than where we're at now. Should we come underneath this channel and head to, a region down in below 50, 58, 57K, that actually would create a new channel, which happens. But this would be pretty concerning if we start to like make our way out into these lower levels as the year goes on, which is not my base case. I am anticipating a bounce, a bullish bounce coming fairly soon for Bitcoin. It's not just based off this linear regression channel. There's a lot of other things we can look at as well. We pull up some, statistical indicators like the weighted logarithmic Bollinger Bands and overlay it with the channel. You can see that we have just been kind of dilly-dallying around this median line. We're getting back below it again. Okay, the bottom of the Bollinger Band is around 54, 55K, and it would be okay to wick down there. Just don't want to see weekly closes down in those levels. So, and we have the descending broadening wedge pattern, which normally resolves in a bullish way. It's a bull flag. So yeah, I mean, nothing right now is concerning me too much about this current price action. We put in a macro lower high relative to what happened in July, a higher low relative to August. So we'll have to see what happens here, but I'm just kind of letting you know that I'm not particularly concerned in the long run. I think that the rest of October, as we head towards the end of the month, could actually turn around in a nice kind of way. And if that doesn't happen, we still have the election seasonality, which is typically quite bullish for Bitcoin. One of the indicators I've been watching very closely is the average directional index, or ADX and DI. We have a bearish divergence that occurred in July on the ADX and DI, but notice that we are getting lower highs on this. The trend strength in white has been at very low levels. We're seeing it tick up a little bit this week, but it's still at a pretty low level of 13. Generally, you're not going to see any major moves in the market unless the trend strength starts to creep up, which I think could happen at any time now that it's at these low levels. It can really go fast too. I am still anticipating a bullish cross coming near the end of the month. It could happen as soon as next week. It could happen the week after that. But I am anticipating that is a very likely outcome based on what the ADX and DI looks like right here. Um, it certainly looks like it's very unlikely to have a higher low, or I'm sorry, higher high on the red directional index. It looks more likely that the green is going to flip up here pretty soon and take us into a reversal. Perhaps price gets down to 57.5K or around that region, and Bitcoin finds some really strong buying volume. So that's something we'd be looking at. And I want to also point out another indicator, which is the Wyckoff volume momentum. If we look at what's been going on there, it's just a general downtrend, right? So we haven't quite seen that extreme buying pressure enter into the market. It hasn't been here for quite a while. But generally, you do see declining volume before you get a major surge of volume. This is just what happens, and we're in a consolidation range right now. So sellers and buyers are consolidating. We're also not seeing dramatic sells anymore. Okay, the selling pressure has eased off a lot compared to what we saw, say, back in August, for instance. Okay. And again, this is buy and sell momentum. So the buyers are barely in control, but they are in control. And we can even see this on the bull bear power trend. We look over at that, still technically speaking, the bulls are in control, but they are losing their grip. Um, and so we are expecting, at least I'm anticipating some kind of selling climax, ideally happening relatively soon. I don't know how dramatic it's going to be. The joke's on me if it ends up matching my previous theory, but I would still be wrong because I abandoned my theory of the dump before the pump. You remember my videos on that where I thought we could get down to 42 to 51K. Um, and we'll see if that was a bad idea to. That's one of the only times I've actually moved the goalposts because I was fairly confident that wouldn't happen. You can see that actually as of this week, neither the Bears nor the Bulls are in control. So the question is, are we going to put in a lower low on the bull bear power trend, or are we going to power out of it with a higher low? Don't know. We'll have to see. When you zoom out and just look in terms of fibs, and we can even turn on a VRVP and adjust the screen to match the VRVP data. Um, it really doesn't look that bad, right? Like we're just chopping around, building out volume in an area that didn't have much volume before. So there's actually quite a bit of volume support that's built out now between the 886 and 1 fib. And I can only think of this as being a good thing for future moves that break above the 1 fib. Whereas before we had almost no support in this region, we have just built out a bunch of support. There still isn't much support between the 786 and the 886. So the danger zone is really if we break back down into this region and especially get below this VRVP bar right here around 57K. That's where things can get ugly. I don't think that that's likely to happen in a sustained kind of way. Again, I did abandon my earlier theory. There's just a lot of support that's built up here. If we can get above 63K and hold that as support, I think it's right, like off to the races, to be honest with you. We already tested, in my opinion, back in August, and this is kind of what made me start to change my theory. Not saying that we can't test it again, but let me pull on the crosshairs. We tested this January wick at like 49,241. Okay, so that's already been tested. And it doesn't mean again that you can't come down and test it again. It's just we've already held that as support. So we did wick down to the 786. That was a very significant moment to me and what I believe marked the bottom of this downtrend. I actually think we're building out a base for a move higher, although it doesn't really seem like it. I think there's a high likelihood that whatever this resolves to will be a higher low, macro higher low, and a reversal. I could be wrong about that. Predictions like this can be somewhat useless, right? Trade your plan, not my TA. But this does kind of help frame a discussion. I'm happy to see that there's more volume support in this region and that we have spent so much time between the 886 and 1 fib. We haven't tested the 1 fib in a while. I mean, since the summer. So I think we're going to see a test of this pretty soon. I think as soon as November, we could be potentially breaking through the 1 fib and heading on to price discovery. If we look at where we are in terms of logarithmic regression, long-term logarithmic regression, we are at a risk level of 35.65, which is, an incredible opportunity for those of you looking to get into Bitcoin. I think we're just kind of testing this area right here, right? That's kind of what we're testing in terms of support. I don't see us coming all the way down to here. So look at the risk level though. It's so low. Like look at the upside potential. It really isn't that crazy to think that we could get to a risk level of 65 or 70 right now, that's where $100,000 is. It's not even like overheating. The overheating region is now around 148 to 175,000. That's when you're up in this overheating region. So I don't want to see Bitcoin go to 150 to 175,000 anytime real soon because that's going to make the odds that this bull cycle is over very, very high. So it's not a big deal if we have another down week or whatever, as long as we don't break this structure that we're in right now, this descending wedge, and really fall to the depths and have a weekly close at an ugly level, still looks bullish. Okay. There's still no cause for concern, even with price below 60,000 right now. No concern. Okay. I'm not worried at all. So I'm going to end things kind of where I began with all my theorizing about Bitcoin's bullishness, which is a pattern that I've noticed has played out every single time. I'm going to review it with you right now because I think it's a good time to do it while the market is dumping. It's, hard probably to be bullish, but I'm bullish. Okay, it is true. We have lost support on the 50. Well, we didn't even have support. We got resistance on the 50-week HMA. It's true. It happened. It's the first time we've really tried to tackle it since all the way back in quarter two. I think we're going back down a little bit. Okay. I don't think we're going to take out this low of 49K. Let me be clear about that. Why am I bullish? What is one of the fundamental reasons? There's a pattern that's played out every single time there's been a death cross of the 50-week HMA and 100-week HMA. Let's go back and review this pattern. Okay, we have to go back. Let me put this on auto. We have to go back quite a ways to find an instance, the most recent instance of a death cross. So we had a death cross happen in July of 2021. And actually, on the death cross, Bitcoin pumped into the 100-week HMA. 100-week HMA. Okay, let's go review. Had a death cross in December of 2019. Bitcoin pumped into the 100-week HMA and actually got above it. Got above it. It didn't happen right away. It took a few weeks. Let's go back in time even more. Okay, death cross back in April of 2018 corresponded to a bear market rally. Now, this bear market rally was an exception where we did not make it to the 100-week HMA. And I've cited the reason being a very aggressive downtrend, a bear market downtrend, which we're not in right now. I don't think so. And then another death cross happened. Got to go all the way back here to May of 2014. Bear market downtrend. But even then, we pumped up to the 100-week HMA and got rejected there. There was a pump into the death cross. Okay. Go back even further. Okay. Now, we didn't have a 100-week HMA that existed back in late 2011, but assuming that there was one, or there would have been one, what did Bitcoin do? Pumped into the 100-week. Okay. So let's look at where we're at right now. Still on auto. Okay, let's go to where we are now. Sorry. I'm not the most efficient with TradingView. Just bear with me. We had a death cross in August. We haven't really had a pump to the 100-week. Now you could say maybe this was the pump that happened in late September. That's the only pump that we get into the 100-week. That's a pretty pathetic pump. I think we're setting up for the pump. And what I said in my last video is I truly believe this, that based on everything I've studied about Bitcoin, what we're likely to see is a dump. Okay, I think we're dumping to a higher low, some kind of macro higher low. It's possible that we wick below that, but I'm talking about a weekly close. And then I think we begin a rally to the 100-week. And I think it's likely that we do something that's never been done before with the 100-week, except maybe you could say, well, I shouldn't say never has been done before. It has been done before. It was done in 2021. But so we'll say it hasn't been done since 2021. Okay, how about that? But I think it's going to be more aggressive than 2021, where we actually get above the 100-week HMA for only this. And again, if we go back to 2021, right, we did pump above the 100-week HMA in the most aggressive way that's ever been done before. Before that was 2020. So every time successively, we have been going higher. And I think we're going to go even higher this time. And I have identified 130,000 as sort of an interesting point at which we might see a reversal come early 2025. But we'll get to that when we get to that, right? There's no point in talking about that far into the future when we haven't even gotten out of this trend yet. So my projection is this kind of movement. We can look at one more thing, the tricks bubble for Bitcoin on the weekly. We can see that it started to kind of turn down. And this is the green shorter term moving average, but it did get above the zero line. That zero line had not been breached since June, and it got above it in September. So I think we may be coming back to test it again. which is okay. Let's put in a higher low. You can see that these other longer moving averages, which is the ones above it from magenta all the way to black, they're starting to kind of flatten out. So this is telling me upward move is most likely coming. So in conclusion, despite the price action that we're having today or this week, and maybe even spilling over a little bit into next week, possibly, I think this downtrend is almost over. And I believe that the market is about to flip very bullish. I'm seeing signs of it already in the altcoin market. There are altcoins that are doing some pretty cool things. Like they're holding like oh yeah, sorry guys. Like can I show you one more thing? Is that all right? I always think I'm going to make a short video and it never ends up being short. Bitcoin dominance. Despite what's going on with Bitcoin, look at what's going on with Bitcoin dominance. It doesn't look so good, does it? Look at what's going on with the shorter term moving average for Bitcoin dominance. It is putting in a bear. It's putting in a downtrend. Now, I think this ultimately will probably resolve in a higher low and one more run by Bitcoin dominance. I still think Bitcoin dominance makes it to 60%. The question is, does that happen on a downtrend or on an uptrend? You know, and I don't know the answer to that, but if I had to guess, I'd say it happens on an uptrend. On both the downtrend and an uptrend. On a more dramatic move to the downside, which we haven't seen quite yet, I think dominance might kick itself up a little bit. And then as Bitcoin recovers and potentially heads to a new all-time high, or at least to test the 100-week, I think we could see dominance make one more run for it. Okay. Before I do think dominance is going to break down this quarter. I think it's going to happen soon, probably within the next month. I think, Bitcoin dominance is going to break down and you're going to start to see the market structure change. And we're already seeing signs of it in the altcoin market. I believe you have to look for these subtle cracks and position yourselves accordingly to take advantage of the greatest returns. Because once things become obvious, you've already missed the boat. You have to look for the subtle details. Not financial advice, but this is what I truly believe. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Crypto Simulation Theory, where we explored the bullishness of Bitcoin, even when price is going down. And I'm not a perma-bull, but I'm bullish right now. I'm sorry, I always forget, I would point the other way. I'm the Gaussian snake, and I'd love to have you join my Telegram group. I have a link to my Telegram group in the video description, so just check down below. If you enjoyed the content, please give this video a thumbs up. It helps with my reach. Leave me a comment if you have anything to say, if you agree with me, disagree with me, love to hear from you. And please subscribe to this channel for more content like what you've seen here, and hit that notification bell if you want to be notified every time I have a new video. So until next time, stay bullish, my friends.